Hey guys, it's Debbie Lee with America's Mighty Warriors, proud mother of Marc Alan Lee. Just wishing Talking Lead an amazing 300 on your podcast. Get it done.
All right, Lead Heads. We are back with another episode of the Talking Lead podcast. This is episode 303, continuing our 300th episode celebration. And we're doing that by bringing you Lead Heads, special guests, awesome giveaways, and, of course, featuring special Lead Heads on these. I don't know how many episodes we're going to be doing, but I haven't set a limit. There's no reason to put limits on this stuff, right? So I want to go ahead and kick this episode off. I want to introduce to you our guest. And our first guest, you guys got a little exposure to him while we were in Utah covering the Charlie Melton world record long shot. It was brought to you by this gentleman. Without him and his services, we wouldn't be able to have broadcast live. And I'm talking about none other than Guy Connor. Guy, welcome in.
Thank you.
Guy is with Fortem Tactical and Southwest Telephone Company. Thus, the connection with bringing the live broadcast from the Salt Flats. We had some challenges out there, didn't we?
Yeah, we had some emergency comms we had to set up.
And you did a good job of coming through and setting those up. So thank you for doing that. And as we were there, you guys probably saw that 50 cal, that 50 Tejas that we were playing around with. And I got to shoot a few rounds through as well. And there's a story behind that. And Guy has brought our very special guest today. I'm going to let him introduce her to talk about that and her amazing foundation, America's Mighty Warriors.
This is quite an honor. Leadheads, please meet Debbie Lee. She's a founder of America's Mighty Warriors. Gold Star mother, Debbie Lee, and let her tell you about America's Mighty Warriors.
Debbie, welcome in. Yay! So we've been trying to get Debbie on for a while now, and we finally got our schedules to mesh up. We were talking, and you and I actually met about 5 years ago. We put the numbers together at the SEAL Legacy Foundation Gala there in Dallas. Commander Mark McGinnis, I think he introduced us. So it's been a while.
It has been a while, but thanks so much for having me on the show. And Guy, thank you for what you're doing to help support our foundation with the 50 cal. And I didn't have any choice the day that I was notified that my son was killed in action, but I did have a choice how I responded. And we put together America's Mighty Warriors in response to my son's amazing last letter home. And I would encourage all of your listeners to go to our website at americasmightywarriors.org and read that letter. I guarantee you will be challenged, you will be inspired, you will be motivated. It talks about a lot of different things, but that's why we started our foundation, to continue to support our troops and other families who lost a loved one in combat.
And Debbie's referring to Marc Lee. You guys are very familiar with Marc Lee. I know our listeners are, but for those of you who are not, Marc Alan Lee is United States Navy SEAL. He was the first SEAL to lose his life in Operation Iraqi Freedom. He was killed in a fierce firefight. And due to that, and that's the letter that Debbie's referring to, is that something that we could read on this show?
Yeah, of course.
I think instead of let's just read that letter to our listeners, and I'll pull it up right now. What's the website? americasmightywarriors.org.
And just go under About Marc, and you can pull it up there. But yes, absolutely.
Talk about Marc while I'm pulling this up.
Well, Marc was the youngest of my three children. Unfortunately, I went through a divorce at a very young age. I married when I was 18, had my first child at 20, the next one at 21 and a half, and the next one at 23, and was going through a divorce at 23. Their father was very abusive and had tried to kill me. And so it was a tough life. And I found out 2 weeks after the divorce, I was pregnant with Marc. And so, there didn't look like there was going to be any light at the end of the tunnel. And Now I look back and I'm like, what the heck happened to the light? How did they grow up, and how can I be a grandma of 11 kids? But very blessed to have 3 children, counting Marc, and 11 other grandchildren. But he was the joy of our life. He had a sense of humor that was crazy. I remember when he was, 3 or 4 years old, telling me knock jokes that he would make up. And he'd crack himself up laughing afterwards. And of course, they usually weren't very funny, but you would laugh so hard seeing him laugh. And that just continued through his life. He had a great sense of humor. Even his teammates said, the night before, the big mission, the day that he died, they knew it was going to be a very dangerous mission and very intense. And obviously at the appropriate times, Marc would bring some humor in to try to lighten it up. And that's one of the things, that he's known for, is his humor. A very selfless young man. Obviously, I'll share his story here in a little bit, but stood out in the direct line of fire 3 times that day and willingly gave his life to save his teammates. But that was how he lived his life, all the time. If there was an underdog, he'd be there standing up for the underdog. He didn't care what anybody else thought of him. Or, I remember dropping him off. He played soccer in high school, and I homeschooled my kids, but he played soccer with the high school, and I drop him off with the bus full of high school kids, and he'd go over my window, give me a big hug and a kiss. He didn't care what anybody else thought. But very blessed, to be his mom. God could have picked anybody else, and I got that privilege. But the day that he gave his life, they were in Iraq, and if you remember back in 2006, that was where the majority of our casualties were coming from. Ramadi, Iraq. It's where Marc was. And it was 115, 120 degrees that day. I live in Phoenix. Once in a while, we see 115, 120, but I can guarantee none of us in our body armor run and fight in a mission for 2 hours like they had done. The most intense battle in Iraq up to that point. And he carried the big gun. He carried the 50 cal. So he carried anywhere from 150 to 180 pounds in addition to his own weight. How you do that in that extreme temperature, just those 2 factors alone is beyond me.
Amazing.
But for 2 hours, I can't comprehend. I'm the first Gold Star mom in history to be in the combat zone. I've been over to Iraq twice, went on patrol with the 1st to the 4th Cav 3 different times. I wasn't being fired on when I was out there. I mean, we could have been, but nothing was happening. I got to see that. Yes, thank goodness. I experienced the extreme temperatures. I wore the body armor, but I wasn't fighting for 2 hours carrying a big weapon. So I can't even begin to understand how they do that. But Marc was one of the main characters portrayed in the movie American Sniper. He's portrayed as Chris's officer. That was the SEAL that is killed in combat. And they show a glimpse of that on the rooftop. There were 4 SEALs that were up there, but the movie doesn't even begin to show how intense that firefight was. And Ryan Jobe had stood up and had been hit by a sniper. And right when he fell to the ground, 2 of the SEALs quickly dropped to the D's. There were 4 of them up there. Marc could have made that very same choice. But his choice that day was to stand up in the direct line of fire again, hoping to lay down some suppressive fire. He had the big gun. He knew he had some firepower there, but his hope was that they could get the medic up to the roof. And the medic got up there and he took one look at Ryan. He said, we got to get him out of here immediately or there's no chance for survival. So not just once by himself, again, a second time, he stood up there to lay down that suppressive fire so they could get down off the roof. And they all successfully got down off of there. They sent Ryan off for medical attention and they climbed in their Bradleys and headed back to the base, which I'm proud to tell you was named Camp Marc Lee in his memory. And I did get to visit there in 2007. When I went over there, I brought back some of the soil from that place where his sign, stood there saying Camp Marc Lee. But as they got back there, they began to rip off their gear, get some water to refresh themselves. And, later Chris Kyle told me that they thought Ryan had died. They thought there was no way that he could have survived his injuries. And so they're beginning to prepare themselves for that word that they could get. Actually, Ryan did survive. He survived for 3 more years and died from complications in a surgery. But at that point, they didn't know that.
Yeah.
And the chief came in and said, we just found 30 of the insurgents that just attacked us. And without hesitation, Marc looked at his chief and he said, Roger that, let's go get him. I've been over there. I know on the other side of Camp Marc Lee is a Marine base. a huge base. They could have got word over there and said, hey, we've just been out in an intense battle. We've got one that was wounded. You guys send some of your men out there. But that's not who these Navy SEALs are. And as they climbed in their Bradleys and headed back to that godforsaken place, they got out, cleared several houses, went in the last house Marc would be in, and they cleared the bottom of the house, and they started up the steps, and they heard Marc yell, "On me!" And if you served, you know what he was saying. He was saying, I got the lead on this. You guys follow me. And as they went up those steps, they drew fire through a window. And for the last and final time again, Marc turned into the line of fire. He didn't duck below the wall. He didn't run from the fire. He stood up and defended his buddies. He saved his teammates. There were several of them that day that were saved because of Marc's heroic actions. And as I said before, I didn't have any choice the news that was given to me on August 2nd. But I did have a choice how I responded. And my choice was to put on Marc's boots and pick up his weapon and stay in the fight for every man and woman who served. Stay in the fight for every one of our veterans who defend the freedoms that we enjoy every day. And I'm not firing bullets at anybody yet, as I say at times. But it is a fight. I don't want to compare myself to what our men and women do in combat. But it is a fight to make sure that they're taken care of. It's a fight to make sure the VA does what they're supposed to, and that we provide those things that heal them and take care of them, not just give them drugs that mask their symptoms. It's a fight to be with those other Gold Star family members as they bury their loved ones and to walk alongside them in the grieving process. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is the mission that God has called me to be able to do this, and it's my honor to be able to do that for those who serve and for the other families of the fallen.
It's an absolutely amazing organization that you started with America's Mighty Warriors. We were talking about the 50 cal that he was assigned, and you had one specially made for an auction that's coming up. And
that's right.
That's what we were talking about with Guy, and Guy, along with our good buddy Brad Starr, with his company. What's he calling his company now?
Performance Guns.
Okay, I was going to say Tejas Rifles, but it's Performance Guns. Put together that beautiful 50 Tejas that we were showing during the Utah shoot. Talk a little bit about that Tejas, Guy.
Basically, when we talked to Debbie about building a gun for auction, we went back to an Armalite AR, AR-50A1, which is what Marc was carrying in the field at that time. It's a single action, AR-50, weighs about 48 pounds. And then Brad and I and Justin Sue, my business partner in Fortem Tactical and Southwest Telecom, came up with the ideas of let's try to emulate. Let's look at his camo he wore and really dialing the rifle in a personalized aspect of it for Marc Lee. With that said, then Brad and Charlie are going to shoot the AR-50 6,000 yards, make a shot with it, and we'll auction that off at SHOT Show in January of 2020. The AR-50 though, he built it in a Tejas round, so that's a 750 grain bullet that's coming out at about 3,800 feet per second.
It's a big sucker.
It's a beast. But it gives you another 300 feet per second, or another 300 feet per second over, a match grade AR-50, 50 caliber.
Yeah, and we can firsthand. We were shooting. So he didn't have the Tejas rounds when we were there in Utah. He had just the regular 50 rounds that you were talking about, and we were trying to hit the 4,000 yard mark, and they were just dropping. Like, I don't know,
that was
several hundred yards short of that. But with the Tejas round, it gives it an extra oomph where it'll really reach out there several more thousand yards.
Yeah, puts a little anger behind it. So it will definitely push it out another 1,000 yards. We were using ball ammunition. We were actually forming brass at that time.
Yeah.
If we were using, if we were using match grade ammo, we would have been hitting at 4,000. It's not a problem.
Oh yeah. It was because of the ammo that we were using is why it was doing that. Yeah. But so that's awesome. So I want our listeners to get involved with this auction, because I know some of them are probably going to want to take part in the auction and get on. Is it something that's going to start before SHOT, or Is that when it starts, and that's when you're going to do everything? Can people do it online?
You can register currently for the auction now at swtel.com/AMW, and there's a button there that says "Be an Everyday Patriot." And also, if you're a business and you want to flip over your phone systems, you can flip them over to Southwest Telephone. We'll give 15% of your gross bill monthly back to America's Mighty Warriors, and send you the receipt at the end of the year.
Oh wow! So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
I didn't know you were doing that too.
American Mighty Warriors is our charity. That's what we love. That's what we live for.
Well, and I think it's kind of cool. His business partner, Justin Sue, he and Marc were good friends growing up.
Oh, okay.
So it's awesome to come back, full circle here, and the connection that they had. I remember Justin when he, was 7 years old at Marc's birthday party in our house, and growing up with them. So it's exciting.
Drinking Kool-Aid and eating cake.
Yes. They're spilling it all over the floor, rubbing it on each other, or whatever they were doing.
Right.
And, for Southwest Tel to be able to do that for us as a foundation.
That is awesome.
And anybody that has a foundation will let you know. The fundraising requires so much time, and that's, such a crucial part of it. So when we've got, Southwest Tel and Guy and Justin coming alongside and saying, here's what we're going to do, we'll send you the check. That frees me up then to be able to work with our veterans that are going through our Helping Heroes Heal program, that, the ones with traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress, that we can provide healing to the brain, not just masking their symptoms. Being able to be like last week, we did a retreat in Eastern Texas, and we had 118 Gold Star family members that were there from 26, fallen heroes families. And so that frees me up to do that. So that's huge. And this is a simple way that people, when they switch their long distance service or their telephone service to them, then, they know they're participating every single month. They're helping us fulfill our mission to be able to change the world for our veterans and Gold Star families.
That's amazing. Now, where do you offer your service? Where does Southwest Telephone Company operate?
49 countries.
Okay.
So primarily within the United States, but we work just about anywhere. Anywhere where Microsoft is, we are. So we ride on a network that is basically built for SATCOM, and they've been rolled out into the Fortune 500s, and now we're bringing it into the small to medium businesses.
I got you. So yeah. I couldn't get my cell phone service through you.
No, but I can refer you to somebody.
Well, I was just going to say, if I can drop Verizon and, sign up with you guys and get my service through you guys and help contribute to America's Mighty Warriors. And
yeah, work on that, Guy.
See? I'm going to definitely work on it. We're a business-to-business provider. We're not a consumer provider.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get to.
Pull together something like that. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. Because I know a lot of our listeners are like, yeah, I'll switch over. How do I do it? But it's business to business.
There's a few out there that do this. They don't do it in the consumer arena, but most of those are taking care of very liberal charities.
Gotcha.
Hey, Debbie, I really wanted to get back and touch base on what you're doing when it comes to healing traumatic brain injury and some of the successes you've seen. And this is a big goal. Is what Justin and I are really trying to raise money behind. And
we're going to talk about that as soon as we take care of some jack wagons, because I hear that jack wagon train rolling in. So, Gunny, bring that train in. Absolutely.
All right, Simplified, do or die, hold 'em high at 8th and I. It is time for the talking lead jack wagon of the week, so brace yourself, baby.
All right, so the train has stationed, and we've got some jack wagons that we want to take care of. And we touched on part of this in last episode, and we're going to let Debbie talk more about it because she's got more firsthand experience with the players involved. But it's the SEAL Eddie Gallagher, and a lot of you leadheads are familiar with his story, how he's been in prison and unjustly treated, and his wife, who has really been putting up a huge fight to make sure that he is getting the justice, the fair treatment that he deserves. And he just recently got released. He got free from jail, and I think the prosecutor has been fired. And we were more on Mrs. Gallagher's side on that with our heroes, our patriots. We didn't really talk about the other side of that. And Debbie, you've probably, like I said, you got probably a little more firsthand knowledge on this whole situation than any of us. Could you talk about that?
You bet. I just think it's an atrocity what's happened to Eddie. And every time I'm in San Diego, when Eddie was still locked up, I would go visit him and encourage him. Eddie actually was in Marc's Bud's class, and so there's a special connection there as well.
Yeah.
But it breaks my heart, and it makes no sense at all. I don't understand how we can take our men and women who serve. Obviously our SEALs are trained at the highest level. Train them to go kill the bad guys. Equip them to go kill the bad guys. And then when they do that, we bring them up on charges. And what Eddie's being accused of anyway isn't anything he did. But even if he would have done that, this was a terrorist. It was a 17-year-old terrorist that was working with them. They had killed a bunch of them, and it was the Iraqis that had dropped bombs on these terrorists and killed a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. The 17-year-old terrorist was the only one that survived. Eddie actually gave him medical aid to try to save his life when they brought him in. Eddie's a medic. And so then for him to come back, there was a circumstance with some of the younger guys on the platoon. Eddie was a chief. They had gotten some trouble, and Eddie had, laid down the hammer on him, which is what a chief is supposed to do. And they wanted some revenge for that. And so, they made up these stories, and we're hoping, I think the intent of it was just they were hoping he'd get in a little trouble, what kind of backfired on him. And then it just has totally gotten completely out of hand. But what NCIS...
They started going down that road and they couldn't backpedal.
Yeah. But what NCIS has done in this investigation is just appalling. The lies that have been told, as you said, the lead prosecutor was just let go from the case. Mm-hmm. They've done things attached to him, because I'm not into technology. They've attached something to the malware and emails to break in that they sent to the defense team to find out who they were speaking to, what their connections were. And it's just like...
Basically tapped into their emails. They bugged everything.
Illegally. And that's, part of why the prosecutor got, relieved of his role in this. But when, Eddie was going through some treatments at a facility, they came and arrested him on 9/11. I mean, there's so many things that are just like, can you put a bigger jab in here? He's served, received numerous awards for what he's done. And then on 9/11, and then you go into his home where his, 18-year-old, and I don't remember, the other one's younger, I want to say 6-year-old, and they took them out of the house in their underwear, and did a search. Yeah. They found these, like one cartridge or something from a bullet that he, had accidentally brought home. And it's just, they've just tried everything to take this hero down. And how does that happen in America when we're supposed to be proven innocent? We're innocent till we're proven guilty.
Well, absolutely. What kind of message does this send to our young men and women who are considering joining the military, and wanting to serve that type of life? And when they see that how they're being treated by their own government, who's going to want to go through that? If I'm going to go over there, they train me to do this, and then they're going to punish me for it.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was at Eddie's first, Article 32, I think is what it's called, hearing. And we were treated like we were terrorists almost. They had done dry runs the day before with snipers on the roof because they were afraid that, we were going to sneak in and rescue Eddie. And I'm just like, who do you people think we are?
They're watching too many John Wick movies, yeah. Yeah,
exactly. We were not allowed to go into the courtroom. They knew there were going to be a lot of us standing there for Eddie, and conveniently, the larger courtroom, they couldn't get us in. So we finally, about 11 o'clock in the after they'd been in there for 2 hours, one at a time, allowed to go in for a few minutes. And I mean, it just is one thing after another. And so I'm really excited. President Trump did step in, I want to say probably about 5 weeks ago, and Eddie was moved from the brig into at Balboa Hospital, where they keep the medical hold patients in a locked room. He still couldn't go in or out without an escort, but at least he wasn't in at the brig anymore. And then, as you said, just last week, then he was relieved, where he didn't have to be in there anymore. So, but again, this has gone on since 9/11, that he's been away from his family. They've had to raise close to $1 million to pay legal fees. Oh my gosh. It's just absurd. It is just, and the toll, even if they drop all the charges and he's released, the toll that it's taken on him and his family is just unreal. When we have a, highly decorated hero who served for 19 years for us, and to be treated this way by the government is unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. Appalling. And that's why they have made the talking lead jackwagon train. So,
yeah, well, we need to take that train and run over a few people.
Hopefully we've got them secure on that train, and the gunny's going to haul them off to where they can't come back. Although some people do, they escape. They make a reoccurrence, but we catch them again, just like this one. She's been on here many times, and she squirms her way off the train somehow, some way. It's Hillary Clinton, and This one comes to us from our lead head, Pierce Taylor, who was on the show last week with us. So thank you, Pierce, for sending this in. Hillary Clinton to serve as keynote speaker at a cyber defense summit.
What?
How ironic is that?
We do hire hackers in our government to try to expose the weak links. And since she's, done all this from the underside, then I guess she's going to tell everybody else how to be able to get away with all the things you're not supposed to do on your BlackBerry or your email, or, how you can bleach your computer or beat it up if somebody catches you doing these things wrong. But she's sure not about securing our cybersecurity, is she?
No, she knows nothing about how to secure your, defense, the defense side of that. She's the complete opposite of that. Let's see. I'm not going to read this article, but it's just ironic that she is a keynote speaker at a cyber defense summit. And unless she's the comic relief, I mean, I don't know. But
hey, there you go. That would definitely be, I don't know about relief, but it would be comical.
It would be comical, yeah. There'd be no relief in sight. But, just talk about another person who's done some atrocities to our military men and women. She deserves to be drug underneath that train, too. So, welcome back to the train.
Yeah. What she did to our guys in Benghazi was just sickening.
It's unspeakable.
Horrific.
All right. So, Guy, you've got one. We were talking earlier. You want to throw... No, I mean, it's still an atrocity what they're doing. Let's talk about it. Throw them on there.
Yeah, I'd like to throw the Nevada state legislature under the train. They passed a bill that is up for signature with Governor Sisolak, who most likely will sign it. It's AB 291, and it creates a series of either red flag laws, imposes mandatory storage requirements that are impossible to maintain, and they criminalize certain firearm modifications from triggers on up, and it's very ambiguously written. So I'd definitely like to throw them under the train, but they do pale in comparison to the first two, especially Eddie Gallagher.
Now, is this on up for vote, or has this already been passed and in effect in law?
It's been passed, and it's sitting on Sisolak's desk right now to be signed to the governor, and he's most likely going to sign it.
And this is in Nevada.
So we'll have to, right.
How's that going to affect SHOT Show?
I don't think it's going to affect SHOT Show, but it will sure affect us it will affect the way we carry our weapons around SHOT Show.
So how does SHOT Show, knowing that this kind of legislation is going on in Nevada, how do they even consider going back to Nevada?
Well, I think it's
to have SHOT Show.
Usually usually conventions are booked out anywhere between 2 to 5 years in advance. So,
yeah.
Our only hope is maybe the NRA will finally step up and they'll throw a lawsuit. They'll sue and drive this right to the Supreme Court. It'll get thrown out. These are unenforceable laws.
It's ridiculous laws is what it is. And speaking of ridiculous laws, on the tails of the Virginia massacre that recently occurred, the Virginia governor is calling for special session to take up gun control measures because of this. So again, another knee-jerk reaction politician trying to
politicize a tragedy.
Jumping on the coattails of a tragedy to try to push their agenda. That is sickening as well. I don't have the details on what all he's talking about here, but we talked in the last episode. There was a suppressor that was used.
On the 45. I think he had two magazine.
Yeah, I think he had two 45s, and one of the 45s he had a suppressor on. And as we all know, and people who have shot suppressors, it doesn't do a whole lot to silence a gun. They're silencers. They're not suppressors. They don't silence a gun completely. They make them a little bit quieter, but it's still as loud as a honking your horn or a police siren. Or something. Yeah, it's still that loud.
Just brings a decibel level down, so you don't need ear protection, and it saves your ears.
In some cases, right? But I guarantee you that, and Trump made a statement on the heels of this also. He was asked about what he thought about suppressors, and I think he said something to the effect of, I don't care for them, or I'm against them, or something like that. And then just went on, didn't clarify or anything else. So hopefully there's going to be more come out about that and his statement, and hopefully he's not going to pull another bump stock fiasco.
Yeah, that's very disheartening to hear that Trump would say something like that.
Yeah, and especially, we know that Junior is all about his firearms. I think he was. I heard he just visited the Silencer Co.'s factory or something recently.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if that's a rumor or not. I just heard something about that, but
yeah, he's definitely a firearms enthusiast and a hunter.
Yeah. So these politicians again that take advantage of these tragedies, our national tragedies, to try to push ridiculous, exorbitant amount of gun restrictions, gun laws down our throats that we don't need. It's ridiculous.
They look for any excuse to create a funnel to slowly chip away at our rights, to make it to the point where eventually you end up like California, where everything is registered, nothing is illegal, and you can't buy 80% of the firearms we can buy.
Well, it sounds like Nevada's headed that way too.
Yeah, California put so much money into our elections. It was almost 4-1 the Democrats spent. They only won by a very small margin. I won't get into what my theory is behind that, but that really pushed us over the edge. We're a small state, so we don't get the attention, or say the financial attention, that other states receive within the conservative movements. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, they've kind of taken over. I think there's definitely some opportunities here where we can sue and stop these laws.
Well, you have to. You've got to put up some sort of resistance. You just can't let it, happen unopposed.
Yeah.
And we all know that the tool that's used by these wackadoodles isn't the issue. The issue is their heart. And it doesn't matter. You could outlaw everything, and they'll get a fork and stab you to death with it, or that's not the issue. Those, as we all know, it's not the guns that are the issue. It's
the people.
Yeah. The issue of the heart. Yeah, the heart and the mind.
The heart and the mind. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, so that does it for the jackwagon train. Gonna get that train out of here. Make sure you try to keep old Hillary on there this time. So that brings us to our new segment, Debbie. I was telling you a little bit about it beforehand. And here are the names that we've got to vote on. I'm going to run them by you and see what you think. So the way that we do it, of course, we've got the Talking Lead Jackwagon Train. So that's our device, our vehicle. and then what we call those people are jack wagons. So it's kind of a two-part thing. So first off, what we want to call them. Number one is a celebrity, kind of like a celebrity, but a celebrity, using lead, talking lead. Lefty's Heroes, Honorable Lead Heads, Talking Lead Valor Award, Lead Head Ting Award, Ting, and that's for those making a positive impact. So like a bullet makes on a steel target, it goes ting.
Right, yeah, got it.
Making a positive, okay. So the vehicles that are up for vote, Lead Force One, like Air Force One, Lead Force One, the Liberty Limo for our celebrities, the Manifest Destiny Wagon, Talking Lead Hall of Heroes, the Wall of Leadness, like the Wall of Greatness, but it's the Wall of Leadness. Solid, strong people.
Right.
What do you think?
Wow, those are some good ones in there. I think I like Lead Force One.
You digging the Lead Force One for the vehicle?
I think I like Lead Force One, yeah.
Okay. What about what we call them? What do we call that? The talking with the lead jackwagon train, jackwagons? Do we call them celebrities? Do we call them Lefty's Heroes? Honorable Lead Heads? Do we just make it the Talking Lead Valor Award? Or do we make it the Lead Head Ting Award?
Yeah, I like the Valor Award too.
Okay, so Talking Lead Valor Award recipients get to take a ride on Lead Force One.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, perfect.
There you go.
So you're
awesome.
So Debbie's voting 4A. 4A. We'll make sure we count that.
Awesome.
So our nominee, no, actually, you're going to be the recipient. The recipient of this episode's Talking Lead Valor Award, and who gets a ride on the Lead Force One, is Debbie Lee, for all your amazing work. Yes, all your amazing work with your foundation. How many years have you been doing this now?
Officially, the foundation started in 2008, but 7 weeks after Marc died, he lost another teammate from his sister platoon, Mike Mansour. He is a Medal of Honor recipient. There was a grenade that was lopped up on the rooftop to them, and he could have run. He could have got away, but he fell on the grenade to save his buddies. And that was the first family that we supported 7 weeks after Marc died. And I did it on my own dime. Did the random acts of kindness that Marc talks about in his amazing last letter home. I would, he said, when's the last time you paid for a stranger's cup of coffee or meal or tank of gas? So I would do those things whenever I saw veterans or Gold Star families. But officially, the foundation started in 2008, so 11 years. And this is what I do full time. I mean, a typical week for me is about 80 hours a week. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for our men and women who defend the freedoms that we enjoy every day, and for the other families who've lost a loved one. And it is, it's an honor. It's a blessing to be able to do that. And it is so rewarding to see the difference Marc is still making around the world in such an amazing way. I do not exaggerate when I say millions and millions of lives have been changed by that kid. August 2nd will be 13 years that, he was redeployed to heaven. And to see that impact is pretty stinking exciting.
And that's largely due to you and your efforts with the organization. So thank you for doing that. And I think it would be great if you would read the letter now.
You bet. So this letter was actually written to us. It came via email about 2.5 weeks before Marc was killed. It went to there was about 12 of us on that email thread, close family and friends. And we call this Marc's glory letter because that's how it starts out. And after he lost his life, it became even more significant to us. Glory is something that some men chase and others find themselves stumbling upon, not expecting it to find them. Either way, it is a noble gesture that one finds bestowed upon them. My question is, when does glory fade away and become a wrongful crusade or an unjustified means by which consumes one completely? I've seen war. I've seen death. The sorrow that encompasses your entire being as a man breathes his last. I can only pray and hope that none of you will ever have to experience some of the things I've seen and felt here. I have felt fear, and I felt adrenaline pump through my veins, making me seem invincible. I will be honest and say that some of the things I've seen here are unjustified and uncalled for. However, for the most part, we are helping this country. It will take more years than most expect, but we will get Iraq to stand on its own feet. Most of what I've seen here I will never really mention or speak of, only due to the nature of those involved. I've seen a man give his food to a hungry child and family. Today, I saw a hospital that most of us would refuse to receive treatment from. The filth and smell would allow most of us not to be able to stand to enter, let alone get medicine from. However, you will be relieved to know that coalition forces have started to provide security for and supply medicine and equipment to help aid in the cause. I've seen amazing things happen here. However, I've seen the sad part of war too. I've seen the morals of a man who cares nothing of human life. I've seen hate towards a nation's people who has never committed a wrong, except being born of a third world, ill-educated, and ignorant to Western civilization. It is not everybody who feels this way, only a select few. But it brings questions to mind. Is it okay for one to consider themselves superior to another race? Surprisingly, we're not a stranger to this sort of attitude, meaning that in our own country, we discriminate against someone for what nationality they are, their education level, their social status. We distinguish our role models as multi-million-dollar sports heroes or talented actors and actresses who complain about not getting millions of dollars more than they are currently getting paid. Our country is a great country. Don't get me wrong on this, otherwise none of us would be living there. My point of this is, how can we come over here and help a less than fortunate country without holding contempt or hate towards them if we can't do it in our own country? I try to do my part over here, but the truth is, over there, the United States, I do nothing but take. Ask yourself, when was the last time you donated clothes that you hadn't worn out? When was the last time you paid for a random stranger's cup of coffee, a meal, or maybe even a tank of gas? When was the last time you helped a person with their groceries into or out of their car? Think to yourself and wonder what it would feel like if when the bill for the meal came and you were told it was already paid for. More random acts of kindness like this would change our country and our reputation as a country. It is not unknown to most of us that the rest of the world looks at us with doubt towards our humanity and morals. I'm not here to preach or say, look at me, because I am just as at fault as the next person. I find that being here makes me realize the great country we have and the obligation we have to keep it that way. The 4th has just come and gone, and I received many emails thanking me for helping keep America great and free. I take no credit for the career path I have chosen. I can only give it to those of you who are reading this, because each one of you has contributed to me and who I am. However, what I do over here is only a small % of what keeps our country great. I think the truth to our greatness is each other. Purity, morals, and kindness, passed down to each generation through example. So to all my family and friends, do me a favor. Pass on the kindness, the love, the precious gift of human life to each other, so that when your children come into contact with the great conflict that we are now faced with here in Iraq, that they are people of humanity, of pure motives, of compassion. This is our real part to keep America free. Happy 4th. Love ya. Marc Lee. P.S. Halfway through the deployment. Can't wait to see all your faces. And I think of that letter.
Wow.
And obviously, when I get to the end, I can't see Marc's face right now. I can see his reflection and what he's doing around the world. But we're all still here. There is something each one of us are supposed to be doing. we have a mission, what we're supposed to be doing. Not everybody's going to change the world like Marc did, but we all have something in our corner of our world that we can do to impact the world.
Exactly. And man, he says it better than anything right there. More random acts of kindness, just helping somebody with their groceries, giving somebody, a tank of gas, paying for a meal, just little things like that.
Yeah.
It can make, it's the butterfly effect,
Yes. And that's one of the ways that, people often have said to me, you just need to get over it. I'm like, okay, well, this kid grew in my womb. I nursed him at my breast. How do I just get over this? You don't.
Yeah, you need to tell those people
Yeah. I've learned ways to cope. I've learned ways to manage. And one of the ways that I do that on his birthday and the anniversary of his passing is I purpose to go out and do random acts of kindness. I mean, that's one of our 4 programs through the foundation that we do regularly. But on those days, I'll go to a military base and, we'll have 30, 40 of our veterans that I'll go pay for their coffee, their meal, their tank of gas, just like Marc says. And it is so cool to see their response. And lots of times they're like, no, ma'am, that's okay. Thank you. I'm like, oh, no. My son was the first Navy SEAL that was killed in Iraq. And he wrote this amazing letter. And he challenges me to do this. So I'm accepting his challenge for doing that. And they're like, oh, yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
I think you should, when you go out and do that, you should call it a random act of Marc Lee-ness.
Marc Lee-ness. There you go. But, and like I said, that was the first program that we started. We do those small things, but we go up to a $5,000 grant. Typically, those are a little more crisis situations. So, you have to nominate somebody for that. The veteran themselves can't come ask, because unfortunately we have found quite a few veterans that are just going from charity to charity to see what they can take and have that entitlement attitude. I'm sorry, and I've seen Gold Star families the same way. Nobody owes me anything as the mother of fallen hero. They owe my son the respect that he deserves for sacrificing his life. I autograph the books that I'm an author in. Live your life worthy of their sacrifice. And that's what's owed. But when people start having that attitude of because I served or because, my loved one gave their life, you owe me something.
Yeah.
Obviously, one of the other programs that we have, we do a lot for Gold Star families. We do retreats. We have 2 houses called Hero Hope Homes where those families can come stay for free. We pay for their airfare, their rental car, and we love and pamper them why they're here. We do that because obviously, personally, I know the pain, and we want to honor them and let them know we'll never forget their hero, and we won't ever forget them. But with our random acts of kindness, then if you nominate somebody, that helps us vet them and know that they're not that kind of a person that's going to have that attitude. And then we'll do, up to a $5,000 grant to help them.
Cool. So you actually have a program called Random Acts of Kindness?
We do.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
we do.
Oh, I was like, you should call it the Random Acts of Marc Lee-ness.
Like that, yeah. We do our Gold Star program, which includes the retreats that we do. It includes the Heroes Hope Homes. We do a big dinner after the Army-Navy game every year for Gold Star families. We do different dinners and sporting events, concerts, different things, around the country for them. And then we do the Helping Heroes Heal program. And that was the one that, Guy, you had mentioned earlier that this 50 cal is going to help raise the funds for. Unfortunately, there's so much that's sacrificed that our veterans do. And after multiple back-to-back combat deployments, they will never come back and be that same person that they were before they went over. There are things that we can do to help them. I feel it's another atrocity with the VA. There's another one you can use for your bandwagon one, is the neglect for our men and women. I feel like they go in there, and I'll share a video with you that I just got yesterday that's very tastefully done, exposing some of those problems. But they go in and it's like, here's your gallon-sized baggie of drugs. Go home, take all these pills, and go away. Don't bother us. And I feel like that's a lot of the mentality.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, 2/3 of the side effects of those drugs we're giving our veterans have a side effect that says may cause suicidal tendency. Why on earth would we give those kind of drugs to our veterans who are depressed anyway? Makes no sense to me. But we are paying for hyperbaric oxygen therapy, hormone and vitamin therapy, natural things that are actually healing their brains. I can show you SPECT scans from veterans before and after that you see the physical changes that are taking place in their brain. We've been part of that fight I talk about. I've had phone calls with the Secretary of the VA trying to make this standard of care for our veterans. We actually could save a lot of money as a nation if we would do these things that are healing them versus the continual prescription drugs. But, again, the drug companies get involved with that. But it's not cheap. The average cost for each veteran that goes through is $13,000. We have been able to partner with some organizations and get a few things donated so we don't always have to pay all that. But if we do, that's the cost. Just this last month in May, and we do all branches of the military, but we've had quite a few SEALs go through the program. I've had 3 letters and 1 phone call from 4 different SEALs that said, I would not be alive today if it wasn't for you and your foundation. And so when we're doing things that give them the ability to be them again, one of the first SEALs that went through, I was asking him, what things you're seeing different. They start sleeping again. A lot of our guys are sleeping 3 hours a night. They've been doing this for 4, 5, 10 years. Yeah. I'm sorry that you would not want to be around me if I had 2 nights in a row where I only slept 3 hours. I can't, think well. I don't process well. Then I get agitated. And so if we can restore their sleep back to them, a lot of them are struggling with headaches from the TBIs and if we, again, can get rid of those headaches, which is what the HBOT's doing, if we can improve their memory. But the one SEAL said, Mama Lee, the best way that I can tell you is you made me a SEAL again. And to know that he felt like who he was had been totally stripped away from him. And a lot of that motivation was gone. I was like, bam, there's no better compliment, than that. So this is what this has done for me. So, last year we treated 24 veterans through our program. This year we budgeted for 34, and we're already at that. We've treated 34 veterans already this year. So we're really pushing hard to get funding. I don't want to ever have to tell another veteran, I'm sorry, we're out of funding, come back next year. Because, that's 6 months. In that 6 months, he could decide I can't cope anymore and takes his life. Yeah. And so this is crucial. This is so important. We actually have an event that's focusing on this June 22nd in Napa Valley. We have Navy SEAL Dan Crenshaw is going to be our keynote speaker. Derek Van Ord, that was one of the SEALs that played in Act of Valor, will be there. We've got some other SEALs that have gone through our program that will be sharing the impact. Actually, the one that I just referred to, he made me a SEAL again. He'll be there speaking. It's in beautiful wine country, so it's going to be a great event. We'll have
how do they find information on this? Is it on your website?
It's on our website. Go to americasmightywarriors.org, and that pop up right before you even get to the page is for that event. So you can click on that and you can purchase your tickets there. If you can't go and want to sponsor a ticket to send a veteran or a Gold Star family, you can do that as well. You would just put that in the note.
Very cool. And you guys, it's media and events. You can click on that too if you missed the little quick link to find that. Now, you guys also have social medias. You're on Facebook, Instagram, all those. How can people find you and follow you there?
We are on Twitter. You can find us at America's Mighty. The whole name is too long to get in there. The Instagram is, I think Instagram is America's Mighty Warriors.
Let's see.
You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Facebook under America's Mighty Warriors. I'm on as Debbie Lee, but you can only have 5,000 friends in Facebook, and I have 5,000 friends. So
you need to start a business page.
Respond, I know I do need to start the other one where they just follow you. But I'm one of those people that's like, it's not about me. It's about Marc. It's about our veterans. But I get it. If they can't reach me, then they can't find that other stuff out.
So it is at America's Mighty Warriors on Instagram and then Facebook. America's Mighty Warriors. And that is all one. America's Mighty Warriors will get you there, guys. Very good. And I just followed. I'm already following you on Facebook.
Awesome.
I got you on Instagram. So we are following you now. Very good.
Great. Yeah, and I would encourage all your listeners to do that. Facebook is probably one of the ways that we get out most of what we're doing, or the events that we've done. That seems to be a good platform. I know there's issues with Facebook, and somebody conservative needs to find a better platform for that. But for now, that's what we're using there. And then our fourth program that we have is advocacy and education. So if there's an injustice against the troops, we'll try to step in and make that right, whether it's corporation or government. You'll find me on the halls of Congress, lots fighting for their benefits, rules of engagement, anything that pertains, to our veterans or families of the fallen.
Very cool. Now, you'd mentioned earlier that you wrote a book.
I'm a contributing author in 4 different books.
Okay, talk about that.
One of them, Stories from Iraq and Afghanistan. That one's 365 daily stories written by men and women who have either been in Iraq, Afghanistan, or were in the Pentagon on 9/11. I have 5 in there. As I mentioned, I'm the first Gold Star mom in history to be in the combat zone where my son was killed. Marc's last letter home is on 2 days of that book as well. The other one is Raising an American Patriot, and that every chapter is a different author. Courage is my theme, and the chapter in that book is courage. It talks a lot about raising my kids as a single mom. Marc's stories in there, what I did to instill patriotism into his life and my other kids' life. And then 10 Secrets of Overcomers, same thing. Every chapter is a different author. That takes 10 people who went through tragedy and how they overcame. So that tells Marc's story and then what we've done since then. So 2 different pieces of Marc's life there. And then another book, Victory in Iraq, that's written by Duncan Hunter, documents my first trip to Iraq, tells Marc's story in there. There's pictures of me in my combat gear, pictures of Marc and I together. And that just documents up to 2010, when we were successful. If we would have left troops there, we wouldn't be back there fighting them today.
Right.
But documents all the different troop movement, who went where, who did what, whatever branch of the military it was, and some great stories in there as well.
And can they get these books at Amazon?
They can get them on our website.
Oh, on your website. Okay, nice.
At our website, then the proceeds from that go back to support our programs rather than to support, a company.
Sure.
But there's lots of other books in there. Marc was part of Task Unit Bruiser, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with Jocko Willink. Jocko was their task unit commander. He and Leif Babin, which was the lieutenant that was with Marc, and one of those that he saved that day, they both started, are out now, and have a company called Echelon Front, an amazing leadership company. And their books are all on our website as well. Who knew that Jocko, one of the toughest warriors we have in America, would also write kids' books? So there's kids' leadership books. There's Way of the Warrior Kid.
He's just a big teddy bear.
Yeah, well, you looked at him, you wouldn't think so. But I cried more tears on Marc's grave with Jocko than even my own family members. So very compassionate man as well. But all of their books are on there. The Way of the Warrior Kid, the main character is Marc. And there's some similarities. He's raised by a single mom, no dad in the picture. But it's not Marc's story when he's growing up. Jocko said, I just want to honor Marc by making him the main character. And he also has a book called Mikey and the Dragon that deals for kids dealing with fear. This little boy sees dragons when he opens his closet or under his bed everywhere. And that book is even rhymes like a Dr. Seuss book. It's crazy how well written these books are and the lessons that are learned from these kids. But amazing group of men from Task Unit Bruiser.
Do you have those on your website also?
They're on our website. We've got lots of T-shirts. We've got Marc's Challenge coin, memorial bracelets, all kinds of stuff. There's lots of great merchandise on there that helps support, our foundation as well.
There you go, guys. Make sure you go check out the website. It's America's Mighty Warriors.
Warriors, plural, because we have lots of those.
We have lots of those.
Interestingly enough. Yes.
.org.
Interestingly enough, the meaning of the name Marc means the mighty warrior. And I know everybody would not hesitate to say Marc lived up to his name.
Yeah.
But that's not the name of our foundation. Our foundation is America's Mighty Warriors, because we have a lot of men and women who have sacrificed greatly for the freedoms that we enjoy every day. And I know you have a very patriotic listening group, but I think a lot of people in America take for granted the freedoms that we have. And I visit Fort Rosecrans, where Marc's buried often, and it's beautiful. The ocean's on one side, Coronado Bay, where the SEALs train, is on the other side. And as I look down the rolling hills of that cemetery, and I see row after row after row of headstones of those brave warriors who served, and many of them gave their lives, in combat, as my son did.
Yeah.
And I often say that is the price of freedom.
Now, you had mentioned the movie American Sniper. Did you have anything to do with that movie? Were you a part of that?
I did. I spent probably 6 or 7 hours at different times on the phone with the script writer. And he came out when we dedicated on Coronado, the Tradet building where all the training goes through for all the SEALs is named Marc A. Lee Training Center after Marc. He came to the dedication of that. He came down to Chris Kyle's funeral, got to know a lot of the guys, but they threw Marc under the bus in the way they portrayed him. Not his personality, not his character, not his heroic actions, nothing about him other than they used his name.
Oh.
And I still believe it's a great movie. I mean, it's Chris's story.
Sure, yeah.
And I think Bradley Cooper did an outstanding job portraying Chris. It is still Hollywood. We also sell American Sniper, on our website. So I always tell people, read the book. That's the real story, not the Hollywood version. Mm-hmm. But I think they did a great job of giving the normal civilian a glimpse into the choices our troops have to make overseas. Yeah. The struggles they face, what their families endure back home, and then the reentry process when they get out and come back home, how difficult that is. So I still think it's a great movie, but Marc's teammates, Jocko, Leif, were furious as well, the way they portrayed Marc. So they reached out to the History Channel, and they did a documentary on Marc called The Warfighter.
Oh, okay.
It's actually a series of 8 different veterans, but Marc was the first one they did. And I tell people, watch that. That's the real Marc. It's his teammates telling the story. They reenact some of the combat scenes. I'm part of that.
Yeah. Well, say that again. What is that? Because I'm going to.
It's called Warfighter. Okay. And History Channel did it. They usually will re-air that on Veterans Day, Memorial Day, I think. But because it's already aired, I'm pretty sure you can go to their website and watch it.
Yeah, I'm sure we can Google it and find it and check it out. But yeah, I want to check that out.
But it is so bizarre as a mother to have your child's name on a headstone or see it on a granite wall or in movies or books. But when we have heroes who did what Marc did, their stories need to be told. People need to understand not just how they died, but how they lived, And so it's pretty amazing.
That's the best way to honor them, is to talk about how they lived their lives. Yeah. You said he has brothers and sisters. You have other children?
I do. He was the youngest. My oldest son, Christopher, served in the Marines. He was in Okinawa most of his time. Actually met his wife over there when he first was stationed there. I said, "Oh, Chris, don't fall in love over there, because then you'll probably live over there. I'll never get to see you. I'll never get to see my grandkids." He married a beautiful gal from Okinawa, and they actually live about a mile from me. So he has 4 boys and 1 girl, and
big family.
Very active grandma in their life. They will be over here tonight for a sleepover, usually once a week, depending on my travel schedule. I try to have them for sleepover. The 2 older boys had been to the retreat that we do for Gold Star families before, and this year they called and they said, "Grandma, can we go volunteer?" And so they were just in East Texas with me last week, did an outstanding job of working the table, taking care of the family.
You got a lot of little helpers there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then my daughter lives up in Oregon. Her husband was in the Army. He was in Iraq when we first went over. He just did 1 enlistment and then got out. And they have 6 children. So
wow.
I am a blessed woman.
You are a blessed grandmother.
Yes.
And what are the age range? 19 to 2. Okay, I was getting ready to ask that. So you probably soon will be a great grandmother.
I could be, yes. And I've thought that through a little bit.
Next few years.
When they were getting ready to have my first grandkids. They're like, what do you want them to call you? I'm like, Grandma. I'm proud of being a grandma. I have no issues with that. But great grandma, I'm thinking I'll have them call me Gigi.
Gigi or Gammy or something, yeah.
Not great grandma, because that sounds really old. And, I'll admit I'm getting older, but I refuse to get old. That's a frame of mind, and you don't have to go there.
That is right.
So,
it's all up here. It's all mental.
Very much.
Well, this has been a pleasure to have you on, Debbie. Very positive. I mean, your whole outlook, your whole attitude, it's perfect for our show. We're all about keeping things positive, supporting our law enforcement, military, first responders, all those. So you guys make sure you go and show Debbie some love, show the organization some love. It's americasmightywarriors.org. Go to their Facebook, Instagram, let Debbie know that you're a lead head, that you heard her here on the Talking Lead podcast, and get registered for that 50. Do it.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. It will be personalized. It'll be a one-of-a-kind. We'll have part of Marc's words from his last letter home on it, his patch that his teammates made in war, the rest of the deployment. So it's going to be amazing, epic
It's
weapon.
even got my DNA on it. I touched it.
There you go.
I pulled the trigger on that thing, too. So if for nothing else, Leadheads, for that.
There you go. There you go.
No, it is a beautiful rifle. It's going to a worthwhile cause. Again, they go to your website to register for that.
You would go to Guy, give them the information where they would go. We don't have it on our website yet.
SWTEL or SWTEL.com/AMW. Sign up. We'll send you out information on the firearm, along with links to Debbie's monthly donation site and information if you want to flip your phone service over so we can donate to Debbie. Our goal is to raise $500,000 a year to take care of those first 34 veterans, to buy those hyperbaric chambers that she needs to run the veterans through, and to financially support Debbie in her growth and her servicing of the veterans. So sign up.
Very cool. Now, Debbie, I can't let you go without hitting you with this other segment that we do. It's called
You Got, and sometimes a girl. Question.
Oh.
They're real easy. So the first one is, of course, this is a firearms related show. What is your earliest recollection of shooting a firearm?
My earliest recollection probably was in high school with some of the guys, that hung around with, just going out shooting with them. I left home at an early age at 16, and I lived with an aunt and an uncle, and we did some skeet shooting with them.
Okay.
And he had an amazing collection of old firearms. He had quite a few of those, but probably has been the last 10 years where I've gotten more involved in, trying to shoot regularly. I have an AR-15. I have, probably 6 or 7 firearms
look at
that
you
I've
go.
got. Yeah.
And
I'm a really good shot with a pistol. I'm found
now
out.
You're bragging.
Yeah, now I'm bragging. But I'm right hand, left eye dominant.
Oh,
so
you're all crossed up.
With the long rifles, and so when I shoot my AR, I've had to learn to shoot it left-handed, and that's just not natural. And I haven't done it often enough that I still have to really think that through. When I pick it up, because it's naturally to pick it up, with my right hand. But
we need to get you into some courses. It'll come natural to you.
Yeah,
just like that.
Yeah.
So, you say you're real good with a handgun. What's your preferred handgun?
I've got a small Glock that I like that doesn't have the big handle on it. Probably my go-to is my 380.
Okay. A Glock? Is it a Glock also?
I don't think the 380. 380 is
Just say it's a Glock.
It's a Glock.
Yeah, it's a Glock. Sure.
I have one of my favorite ones. Actually, it's not mine. It's going to be an auction item at our event June 22nd. It's the Bond Arms Texan.
Yeah.
Double barrel. And it has Marc's name engraved on one side, the date of his death, and then the other side has some of the words from his last letter home. It's got the wood handle, a beautiful little.
Yeah, he does.
Pistol, but it'll pack some damage too.
He does excellent work. I love his little derringers that he does.
Yes,
it's good. He's been on the show before.
Yeah, Gordon's awesome.
Next question. We've gone through this. It's, do you have any military law enforcement background? We know your background with that, so we'll go to the next question. When it comes to pop culture, whether it's a movie, a TV show, a book, maybe music, what is your go-to? What's your favorite? What do you like? What's like your zone?
So TV shows, I've always been one of those weird women that likes the military. So NCIS, obviously SEAL Team.
Yeah.
They got the drama really good on there.
On SEAL Team?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one yet. I've seen was it called 6? Have you seen that one?
I think I saw one of the segments in 6.
There's one
SEAL
called
Team's
6.
on Wednesday nights. And that's a pretty good show.
I need to check that one out. I've not seen that one yet.
Yeah.
So you don't?
It's good.
Are you getting in? Do you do any binge watching? Do you do Game of Thrones or?
No, never seen one Game of Thrones. If I binge watch, it's going to be NCIS or Blue Bloods, and that's the other one I like. So
you like Tom Selleck? Digging on Magnum PI?
I actually had dinner with Tom Selleck.
Nice.
So
do tell, girl.
There's actually it wasn't just me. There were 8 of us.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But it was when Andrew Breitbart was still alive, and he was a good friend of mine. And I had just returned from my first trip to Iraq, and there's a group of conservative. Yes, there's conservatives in Hollywood.
They're slowly making themselves known.
Yeah, but they're still underground.
We're providing safe spaces for them, Kiana.
Yes, we are. But so this was the big gala for that group, and Tom Selleck was at the table.
Nice.
Where with Andrew Breitbart and Andy Levy and Greg Gutfeld, and
so. You had a good table there.
Yeah, we did have a good table.
Very cool.
Good table. So.
What about movies? What's like your all-time favorite movie you just sit down and watch over and over and over and over again?
I don't watch a lot of movies just because I'm, crazy busy. And usually if I watch a movie, my grandkids are with me. So, I love Moana. Now, Moana is me. That girl, I don't know if you've seen that movie, but
I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's good. It's a kid's movie, obviously, but she's a little bit of a rebel, and she runs away from home to save the world and learns a few lessons and does end up coming back, saving her village. But
okay, is that a Disney movie? Is it like one of those cartoony movies?
One of those. Yes, it is. It's animated.
I got you.
The Rock is the one that is the guy in the movie that narrates the voice there. So
okay. So next question is, what is your next gotta have, wanna have? You've been eyeing it. You're gonna make it yours.
Ooh, gotta have, wanna have.
And it could just be frivolous too. These aren't deep thought questions.
I'm a very practical person.
Yeah.
I think one of my gotta haves I got, and Guy got to actually see it. It's was one of our, and I'm going to walk over so you guys can see it. It was one of our auction items at Marc's birthday bash at Scottsdale Gun Club.
Oh, nice.
And it's this water feature.
Oh, that is beautiful.
With Marc on there.
That is awesome.
Isn't that cool?
That is.
At the event, I'm like, oh, I got to have that. And of course, I was in the back of the room, so nobody knew who was good. And then the auctioneer, doggone it, I guess maybe it was good for me, but it could have been better for the foundation, said, well, Debbie's bidding on that. And the other people were like, oh, we're done.
Everybody backed off.
But, yeah.
Next question. Laws be damned. Money be damned. What would you own?
An airplane.
Sweet. Like big Boeing 747?
No, probably just a, Learjet, King Air. My background is aerospace science, and I used to fly, but I fell and injured my back, and I couldn't pass my first class medical. So I haven't piloted a plane since '86. So no doubt it would be an airplane.
Awesome. That's what I got my degree in. Aerospace.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, nice.
So next question is, if you could spend the day at the range, and this could be if you just spend the day with anyone, still alive, fictional, dead, whoever it may be, who would you like to spend the day at the range with?
Marc.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
If you could have a group of people, who would you add with that group?
Task Unit Bruiser.
The whole unit.
The whole unit. Chris, Kyle, Mark, Jocko, Leif, Ryan, Mikey, JP, the whole group of the boys there.
That would be a wild day at the range right there.
Yes, it would.
It would be awesome.
I'll tell you what, though. Mark tried to explain to me the brotherhood thing, before he died. And I remember having phone calls, and, it's like, oh, I get it. You're close to these guys. You've trained hard with them. You've gone into combat. I get that. But as close as your own brother you grew up with for 28 years? He said, yeah, Mom, that close. And I'm like, well, let me remind you, I didn't birth them, so they really can't be your brothers. And then, the week
You're
that Mark
taking
died,
it personal.
Exactly. The week that Mark died, we had 5 of them in our home, and the light bulb went on. I went, oh my gosh, they love Mark just as much as we do, and they're hurting just as much as we are. And, that's when, for me, the reality came in that those really are my boys, and, I'm Chris, Kyle, and I were super close. And I was a double whammy losing him, but there's something really special about that bond and that connection. And, it's a two-way street. Jocko talked about that. He was our keynote speaker at Mark's birthday bash this year, and so Guy got to hear him speak about that. But, once they knew that I'd been notified, they began to call me, and they'll tell you, they were calling to encourage me and give me support. And, I was concerned for them. I was struggling in a non-combat zone to think, to deal with things, to process things.
Yeah.
None of the decisions I was going to make were going to be life-threatening, but they were still going out in combat, and they needed to be able to be safe and process. And so I was very concerned for them, and, shared my support for them when I called. So it's been a two-way, street of building relationships there. But they call me Mama Lee. Their kids call me, Mama Lee. And
so you've got that many more sons now.
I do. Yeah. My
and
family
grandchildren.
Exponentially. Yeah.
Very cool. Debbie, thank you so much for taking the time to be on. AmericasMightyWarriors.org. Leadheads, check them out. Go to all the social medias. Guy, again, give your contact info.
Guy Connor it's Guy at swtel.com. That's SWTEL. And sign up for the auction at swtel.com/AMW.
There you go. And Fortem Tactical also. Give that.
That's Guy at Fortem Tactical, which is FORTEM tactical.com.
And what were you going to say, Debbie?
Lefty, one of the other things that we've got, too, that would be a really easy way for your listeners to support us, we have a campaign that's called 19 in 2019. If we can find 2,019 people that will commit to giving $19 a month on a recurring basis, that's more than half of our budget. And that's a really simple thing anymore. That's, 3 cups of coffee for the month at Starbucks. They've gotten ridiculous.
So if you go to Starbucks, that's 1 cup of coffee.
$20. I don't know what that could be. But that's just a real simple way, to let our veterans and other families of the fallen know that you support them and you're behind them.
Well, it's amazing work that you're doing, and we greatly appreciate it. And Leadheads, show your support. All right, Leadheads, that does it for another episode of the Talking Lead podcast. Make sure you go and support those that support this show. Ride On Optics. Check them out at ritonoptics.com. Modern Spartan Systems for all your lubricating and gun cleaning needs. Modern Spartan Systems got everything that you need there, and they've got the TVT engine oil additive to take care of all those engines in your family as well. Keep them running longer and smoother. ModernSpartanSystems.com. Kel-Tec Weapons, makers of the most innovative firearms in our industry and very cool bullpups as well. They've got the RDB, RFB, KSG, KS7, full line of rifles, pistols at keltecweapons.com. X-Steel Targets, the best, most affordable AR-500 steel targets on the market today are, Guy?
X-Steel Targets.
X-Steel Targets.
Yes, sir. You know, sponsors of the Charlie Melton World Record Long Shot. We've got 3 nice big targets set up. They were originally 1 MOA, but the distance that he's going to go to on this next shot, they're not really 1 MOA anymore. But he's still going to hit
3
them.
3 feet MOA.
I know. He's still going to hit them, definitely. He's going to tag
yeah.
those targets. xsteeltargets.com. And then, of course, make sure you guys are participating in all our 300 celebration giveaways, the ASP giveaway. Make sure you're going and doing your selfies, doing the proper tags. Listen to our previous episodes on what you need to do to take part to win 3 of the dual fuel lights from ASP Lights. Kel-Tec is giving away a CP33 22 long pistol. We've got a silencer that our good buddy Dooley, Nick Dooley at Dooley Defense is giving away, and tons of more things. So make sure you go listen to our prior episodes to find out what you need to do to take part and win some awesome prizes from Talking Lead. Again, Debbie, Guy, thank you guys so much for taking the time. Excellent show, and we can't not do this show and not remember that this is on the heels of the 75th anniversary of World War II. So make sure you go out, and if you know someone, or if you know someone who knows someone that knows a veteran of World War II, go out and just spend some time with them. I mean, that means the world to them. Just go out and say, hey. I mean, that'll mean more than you can imagine. So as always,
they have amazing stories.
They do. We had one, Al Mampry. We had him on at SHOT Show. Just recently passed. Yeah, it's very, very sad to hear that. Great guy. We've got a couple of others that we have lined up. Hopefully we can get them scheduled, get them on the show. Here's some more amazing stories. But until then, as always, lead heads, keep your loved ones close.
And your firearms closer. And don't forget to support AmericasMightyWarriors.org. Pass on the kindness, the love, the precious gift to human life.
Hey, this is Guy Connor with Southwest Telephone Company and Fortem Tactical. Just wishing Talking Lead and all the lead heads out there 300 more episodes. That's 7 more years. Let's go.
So, well, hopefully I'll cut that in half and start doing more episodes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.